Sane, once one of the most promising young wingers in the world in football. What has happened to him recently, and why didn't he have the career that he should have? Bayern Buddies, the best duo on the internet, and we're going to be exploring the mysterious fall-off of Leroy Sane and why he didn't reach the heights, especially at Bayern, that he should have. After starting off so well at Schalke, at Man City, what happened to him after that big injury he had, and overall his career? Why didn't he reach those heights?
Alright, so the first reason that we're going to mention on why Sane had this big fall off is that he is very injury prone. The amount of injuries he's had is pretty much, it's crazy. It's genuinely crazy. Obviously, we're going to bring up the first injury that he had, which was the main injury. It was back in 2019 in the Community Shield final against Liverpool, I believe. Leroy Sane got injured. He tore his ACL. I remember Pep wasn't supposed to start him at all. I remember Sane literally had like a contract at Bayern. He was very close into signing it. Boom, he gets injured. Bayern immediately don't sign him. They go in and sign Perisic instead, and then obviously the rest is history from there. Big domino effect right there. Who knows what would have happened if we signed Sane there, if Sane didn't get injured there. But definitely that is one of the biggest reasons why we haven't seen him play, the way he's been playing at Man City or in Schalke. So, very questionable. Yeah, so he's missed a couple of games like last season, 23-24 season, which was a very, very poor season from us, of course, because we didn't win any single trophy in the first time since, I believe, like 2011. So, pretty much like almost around like 13-12 years essentially, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, let's dive right deep into like the logistics of the injuries.
With that ACL injury, he missed 217 days for a total of 50 games with Germany and Man City combined. And yeah, the biggest injury of his career, of course, definitely affected how he played. I just think that the confidence that he had in doing those moves that he used to, the skills, the flair that he had at Man City, I don't think we really ever saw that level of skill and flair again from him at Bayern. A lot of fans underestimate the mental impact that an injury like that could have on a player. I mean, a lot of people just think about the physical, the time, what they see, like the physical that he's out, how bad it looks, but they don't really think about, how long they take to come back and just how scary it is to think about getting injured like that again. So I think that's a big plan, which says a little bit about his mentality, which we'll get into. And it's not just that injury alone. You can see throughout the history of his career, starting at Schalke, he already had a couple injury knocks there, and even another season with Bayern.
Minus that, obviously, that big injury, we're going to put that big ACL injury to the side. Let's just talk about really the other injuries. 16-17 season, when he first joined Man City, he also missed pretty much the majority of that season as well. That pretty much says it, because, he's a really young player, he's an up-and-coming player, and he's already getting injured like that. It's very questionable. It's very, it definitely raises awareness too. Also in Schalke, he's missed like around like 40 days, but I think that's pretty much it in terms of that. So yeah, Bayern, he's very, very injury prone. He missed a lot of games last season, like I mentioned earlier. And, he's missed a couple of games here and there, like, when Nagelsmann was in charge, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's been very underwhelming for him in terms of injuries. And obviously, like Joey said, obviously when you're a fan, you don't really take into play on what they go through, the recovery process and all that. We basically just see, hey, he's injured for this amount, he's expected to return at this time, oh, he's training now. And obviously there's a mental aspect that comes into it as well. Sane could just feel like, oh, I don't want to get injured again, because, it could have been painful. It could also create trauma as well. Obviously, I'm talking more of the personal side, but obviously there's the football side too. These guys do get paid a lot of money. They train every day, so, maybe that's also not the case, but at the end of the day, they are human, of course, as well.
Second reason why we believe that Sane has really fallen off is just his mentality as a player overall. The first example of this we saw at Bayern was when he first joined. A lot of fans, critics, and even some people within the club, presidents, etc., they really noticed that Sane wasn't tracking back, didn't have that mentality, that German mentality to track back, really fight for the team, be a team player, and just as a winger, just coming back to help your fullback out. It's very important for the team to work, especially with the systems we were playing at the time, and even to this day. I mean, in general, most systems nowadays, wingers need to track back, and a lot of people were complaining about that. And it just goes to say something about a player if everyone from the club to the fans to the critics really have to publicly criticize you and privately criticize you, I'm sure, just to do a task that a winger is expected to do. So, I don't know, unless you're like Messi, I don't think you could get away with not defending.
Oh yeah, 100%. And also there's other reasonings too with this. He hasn't gotten really, like Joey mentioned, with obviously pressing and tracking back, which is very important in Flick's philosophy as well. And he was lacking that when Flick was our coach. But yeah, let's just go back a little bit. In around the 2017-18 season, when New Year's came, he went to a New Year's party, and he had training the next day, and he arrived late into training, and obviously that that really upset Pep Guardiola. Obviously, we know how big of a, how strict Pep Guardiola is essentially as a manager. I mean, as every manager should be. I don't think any manager is really going to let that slide. So obviously, he's bounced back from that, of course. Obviously winning the Young FA Player of the Year, but there's like little signs over there about his mentality, being, on the lower side when it really should be at the higher side, of course.
Then during Leroy Sane's real prime at Manchester City, of course we had the 2018 World Cup going on, and he didn't even get called up for it. I mean, to be honest, Germany didn't really have a lot of wingers that would be as good as Sane was during that time, especially after seeing how the World Cup went for Germany. I mean, they definitely could have used him. We all wonder why was Sane not picked up. I mean, clearly it wasn't because of how he played. I think it definitely had to do something with how low maybe heard or saw him, how low saw or heard about his mentality or attitude, as we've been mentioning. I mean, of course, any national team coach is going to go watch German players at their teams and scout them out and see how they are and get just the inside information about them. And clearly there was a good reason for why he didn't choose Sane. Maybe not a good reason, but I don't know. That's just another little thing that could impact it.
Yeah, especially since he's won the FA Young Player of the Year then as well. And, he's tearing up the Prem. He basically almost was one of the big reasons of why even City won the league, and they retained the league title as well. They haven't won that in like 3 years since Pep Guardiola came in. So definitely raises a few questions on his mentality, of course. So, and that's when he was young too. So I mean, obviously your mentality gets better obviously when you're older and you have more experience. But it seems like even now.
So the third and final reason we believe Leroy Sane fell off and didn't reach the heights he was supposed to was just because of his attitude. I mean, we saw him get into multiple fights throughout his career with whether it was players, coaches, or other people that we haven't even heard about that came out in the news. I mean, he would fight often with Guardiola. I mean, that's one of the big reasons why he ended up even leaving City. I mean, he was in a great situation, playing under a great coach for a very good team that had a lot of potential at the time. Sure, he had a lot of competition, but I mean, what type of player doesn't have competition at a top club? So I mean, I think definitely the fights that he had with Pep Guardiola, whether it was about, like he mentioned, partying or showing up to training late, which I'm sure happened, or whatnot. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of attitude issues.
He had that fight with Sadio Mane, and obviously, we know how Sadio Mane is a great player. I think Man City were winning 3-0, and Bayern, obviously, as they should be frustrated because, they weren't creating enough good chances. Obviously, there was a couple mistakes in the back. You won't mention that. It's a different video. So obviously a misplaced pass here and there, and then, they get into a fight. They get into like a physical altercation. Obviously, you're both grown men. Sane is around like 27 and Sadio is around like in his 30s essentially, and that should not be happening in this football club. We're the best club in Germany. It should not be happening whatsoever. And then fast forward a couple months later, he gets into a fight with an Austrian player in a friendly, and he gets a 3-game suspension, and that basically hurts him because Nagelsmann was getting used to his tactics, was getting used to his players because he just first joined Germany. That's when Flick got sacked, and that basically hurt his Euro 2024 preparation without a doubt. So there's a lot to be said with it, and it can't just be that he's young. It's also happening even right now.
Pep isn't the type of coach that's going to stand up for that after the amazing players and talent that he's worked with. So
like it was also clear, like in that 2019 season, right before he got injured, when we mentioned that earlier, Sane didn't want to extend his contract at all. He didn't sign it. He told Pep Guardiola that, and normally, like a coach like Pep Guardiola, he would essentially fight for it. But I don't know, maybe obviously internally they were fighting for it, but externally, when what the media was presenting, it seems like he was like, okay, go and find your other club. So that already kind of raises awareness why a coach like Pep Guardiola kind of just like let him go. But yeah, that just brings his mentality into it.
So yeah, that's really why we believe that Sane fell off and never reached the heights at Bayern that he should have, and that all Bayern fans really hope for. I mean, he's 29 now. We don't really have much hope for him to change, whether that's as a person or as a player or whatever you think. I think he's kind of stuck at where he's at, what he's been doing for Bayern for the past couple of years. He relies a lot on his athleticism, and that's only going to go downwards at 29. So, I mean, I don't think there's much more we could say. I think the experiment with Sane at Bayern has really failed, to be honest, and I think it's time to move on. So let us know why you guys think that Sane has fell off in the comments below, and why he didn't reach the heights he should have with Bayern Munich. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.